The use of the word get has gone up while give has fallen out of favor. Joining us now is licensed psychologist Dr. Wendy Rice. Dr. Rice, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. Are we more self-centered than previous generations?
It does seem that we are more self-centered and maybe a little more narcissistic than previous generations, although this study tracked it over 200 years. So my guess is that in the last 20, things have really skyrocketed, though.
How many more books are being published today than they were 200 years ago, though?
I wish I had that statistic for you. I don't.
I would speculate that there are far more books being published, and how many self-published books are there? And if these are on bookshelves, are there more self-help books than ever before?
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah.
So many business growth books and self-help books and business books and how do you get what you want.
Right.
There's so much about that. Absolutely. I was just at a conference, and we spent a lot of time talking about self-publishing.
Yeah. How to get less self-centered.
Well, so one of the things I talk about in my practice in Tampa, Florida, is I try to help parents make a mental shift for themselves because oftentimes our kids think that access to their iPhones and their iPads and iTouch and getting a car when you're 16 is a birthright.
Yeah.
And I try to help parents shift their thinking a little bit to help kids see that that stuff is a privilege. It's not a birthright.
Yeah. And I would think that it's becoming more and more difficult these days to do that.
It is, especially because if you send your middle schooler or your high schooler to school without a cool phone, your kid feels like an outcast, and everybody's communicating on portable smartphones and stuff, and so if you don't allow your child to have what everybody else has, well, then you're, quote-unquote, depriving your child.
I remember I got my driver's license on my 16th birthday, and I said to my dad, I'd like to get a car. And he said, how are you going to pay for it? And suddenly it became, I don't know.
Right, finding ways to be resourceful for yourself and not just having a sense of entitlement, but learning how to earn what it is that you want.
Yeah, and he said you can get a job, and then you can figure out if you can afford it, which I did, and I couldn't. So, there was a financial reality there, economic reality that, made sense back then.
When you talk to kids these days, and you're like, well, let's look at the pros and cons, and let's look at the money of it, and is this a possibility for you? And it's hard for them to imagine that it isn't.
So what advice do you have for parents when their children are becoming more and more self-centered because of all the things that they think is a right? What advice do you give parents?
One of the things I do is I really ask parents to take a look for themselves and examine their own beliefs. And, kids certainly do as we do, not as we say.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to live it in order to expect your kids to have any chance of your kids really following in your footsteps. I think giving back and spending time with people who might have less than you is a way, but I hate the idea that schools require community service. I feel like it's an oxymoron.
I couldn't agree with you more. Dr. Rice, if we want to learn more about you, how do we go about doing that?
My website is ricepsychology.com in Tampa. I talk to people from all over the country, but that's how you find me.
Very good. Dr. Rice, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Take care.